A free shot at millions of dollars up for grabs this week with your first deposit. Minimum $5 deposit required. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details. Well, Key said she'd be back, and he's right. Cassidy Hubbarth joins us again, but this time on the Goodyear Hotline, our ESPN NBA reporter. Cassidy, good morning. How are you?
Morning.
I'm good. I'm good. Sorry I didn't make it in there today. It is pouring, as you guys know. But I appreciate you guys having me on via FaceTime, Key. I'm still here and live in effect.
Well, I told you you'd be back.
I appreciate it. I mean, I enjoyed that basketball game last night. I hope you guys did.
Well, speaking of back, will this series get back to Phoenix?
Yes. I mean, I watched that game, and look, my takeaway from the Bucks side of things is just Giannis was sensational last night. 42, 12, and 4. It's freakish that given his knee bent backwards 8 days ago, that was an all-time performance. He even said himself that at the time of that injury, he thought that he was done for the season. But he was sensational, especially in that third quarter. We even saw him battling. But post-game, he said that he didn't have any issues with his knee. He was just cramping, and he needs to drink more water. And that may speak to his conditioning. Bud said post-game injury-wise, he's in a good place. They're obviously playing him big minutes, so he's getting that conditioning out there. Giannis did all he could do on a bad knee to keep the Bucks in a game that really they had no business being in. He played like an MVP, and he played like the finals aren't guaranteed. The difference right now between these two teams is the Suns are resourceful. They had multiple guys stepping up. At times in a game where just offensively, it felt like Giannis was like Will Smith, in an empty, like in that empty living room, that meme. He scored the most points in a finals quarter ever, and the Bucks were still down in the third quarter. So I say all that to answer your question. If Middleton would have had a average game, I believe they would have won. And the Suns did what they were supposed to do. They won first 2 games at home. The series shifts now to Milwaukee. I think in this series, like now with fans back in the arenas, the Suns aren't going to have the motivation of that amazing crowd in Phoenix. I think if they can get Middleton and Drew Holiday offensively working, I thought defensively, they played well. Brooke Lopez was great on pick and roll defense. Drew Holiday had some monster plays. They obviously got, annihilated on the 3. So there's a lot of things they need to tweak from now until Sunday. But if you watch that game and think that the Bucks were out of it, they kept fighting. And the Suns, they had answers for every single time. But I just don't – Middleton has to be unleashed.
Cassidy, you speak of Middleton has to be unleashed. Giannis gave him 42 points. Let's not talk about the defensive side or the rebounds or the blocks, anything like that. He gave him 42 points, but yet and still his running mate somehow remains in witness protection. When does he come out of witness protection?
Look, he had a good game 1. He was the one who kept them in that game in game 1 in the third quarter when Giannis, was trying to find his rhythm in game 1. So he has to. They talked about it post game that it has to be a team effort. I think that's just the juxtaposition of the two teams is that, the Suns, and this is something that the Suns keep priding themselves, that they are a team. They have guys who step up and know their roles. I think something that really sums them up is, that 9+ pass play, and Mikal Bridges and Chris Paul were talking about it post game that like that play that they talked about it immediately as they got off the court because they felt the energy of having everyone touch the ball and that team basketball. And that's what Giannis was stressing. We saw the cameras catch him, in the huddle, trying to pump up his teammates. And that's what he said. Like, we have to be a cohesive unit. Giannis did what he had to do and take over that game. But it can't just be on those three guys, even though Bud said The difference is we need our top three guys to show up. The Bucks need to be working more in concert with each other. Like people are going to also criticize Drew Holiday's, some of the shots maybe like he didn't need to let fly, but defensively, I mean, he was a huge difference maker.
Coach Bud talked about, as you mentioned, Cassidy, the top three guys showing up. How about him showing up adjustment-wise to figure out how to slow down Devin Booker and Chris Paul, who has combined for a record-breaking backcourt of 113 points in the first two games? How about trying to slow that down with some adjustments?
We talked about it yesterday, guys. Like we put a lot of blame on Bud not being creative, but he made a lot of adjustments. Monty Williams said like that first quarter was like a barrage of aggression. We saw that they wanted to make it uncomfortable. Chris Paul, he had 6 turnovers, so he seemed a little worn down. But when it comes to Devin Booker, he stepped up, and that's something that Chris said post game is that I have faith in Devin Booker. Our trust level is through the roof, and these two guys, look. Chris may be the veteran, but as I mentioned yesterday, he said that he wanted to join the Suns so he can team up with Booker. And Monty Williams said after the game about Devin Booker that he's made for these moments. He doesn't get tired in games. He said he almost looks insulted when Book, when he asked Book rather if he's good, and Monty says the great ones, find a way to push through the fatigue. And Chris Paul also said that just Devin stays in attack mode and how much trust they've built between the two of them. He said whatever happens during the game, they just know that there's no malicious intent towards each other. There's just such a trust, and that trust is throughout the team. That's why you see a guy like Mikal Bridges step up the way he did yesterday, because he knows his role. And Chris said, that guy's a champion, and he plays like it. He understands what it takes to win. And Chris also said, look, Book had 70 in a game. You don't do that being shy. He puts in the work. He models himself after Kobe. And you can't do that without putting in the work. But, we're seeing it's so impressive to see a guy like Devin Booker who has experienced, playing on a lot of bad teams and now playing in his first playoff game or playoff series and playoffs rather, to really own the moment and to step up and he said things have slowed down, how these playoffs have played out for him. He doesn't feel like there isn't anything that can be thrown their way that he, would be caught off guard for. So it's been really fun to see Chris Paul and Devin Booker and how, they're shining on this final stage for the first time for the both of them.
And again, the team concept that we talked about, remember that one possession where it felt like they passed the ball 10 times before getting just a perfect shot. That's just, as you mentioned, the trust factor there. They just really, you could see where they are right now as a team. We'll see if it travels well. It has so far in the playoffs, but obviously in Milwaukee, it could be a different story. But you mentioned Devin Booker and, the Be Legendary message that Kobe gave him. Also finish the job. What would Kobe say right now? I'll finish the job, right? Like that kind of stuff. You could tell is definitely on his mind and literally tattooed on his skin as well. What will it take for the Suns to finish the job here? Is it what they're doing unstoppable? Or is there more that still needs to be done with this group before they can get that fourth win, which would be the hardest?
I mean, they're taking a lot of hits and figuring it out. I'm saying resourceful because they're such a smart team. They don't get rattled. But I do think it's worth pointing out that injuries are starting to pile up for them. First, we saw Saric out with that torn ACL. A Torrey Craig injury, I think, is definitely something you need to keep an eye on because, we already saw Ayton play 42 minutes last night. He's young, but it's going to mean we're going to see more Abdel Nader, Kaminsky minutes. How much can we rely on that? We, as in the Suns, excuse me. and they're going to be thin inside. So if you're the Bucks, then you attack Ayton, get him into some foul trouble like that. That could be something that you focus on going forward, because these are the playoffs. These are the finals. Those few minutes that Torrey Craig provided, that Sarge provided, make big difference in these types of games where these teams are battling. And we'll see what happens, because I did like what we saw out of Brooke Lopez on the defensive side. Like I said, great in the pick and roll, and can you expect the Suns to hit 23s in Milwaukee? Probably not. So I just see the Bucks taking this time over the next couple of days to figure out how to get Drew and Chris going more offensively, and to limit specifically the spot up threes. So I mean, they hit 23s, but a lot of them were spot up, so they have to make sure that they limit those.
Yeah, again, as the series goes home, you feel a lot better when you're home, and we'll see if that makes that big of a difference for Milwaukee in this series. Cassidy, great to catch up with you again.
See you on Monday.
Thanks for having me on, guys. Have a great weekend.
You got it, you too. Cassidy Hubbarth, ESPN NBA reporter on the Goodyear Hotline. Keyshawn J. Will Zubin, presented by Progressive Insurance. Drivers who save at Progressive save over $700 on average. Call or click today. Find out if we could save you hundreds on your car insurance. Coming up, why one future Hall of Fame quarterback might be benched this season.
Oh, no.
Yeah, we'll discuss that after SportsCenter.